feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks, coming at you Wednesday morning. It's October 1st. And coming up on today's show, it will be myself, Kyle Teige, and Britt Robson. Before Kyle headed back to Portland, I wanted to get the three of us to connect on here together. And that's what we're going to do for today's episode. We tried highlighting the most interesting topics that arose at Media Day and the first day of training camp. We were just at Wolves practice. So we'll get into what mostly stood out to Britt from the first 2 days of practice and Media Day. 60 minutes of Britt, Kyle, and I coming up next. Let's go. All right, we are now joined by Britt Robson. Kyle is still here in town for another couple of hours. The three of us don't get to do pods together all that often. I mean, we have in the playoffs, but I am glad for the three of us to be able to get together here and sort of set the scene of what this season is going to be. As we talked about last week, Britt, that kind of starts with your conversation with Fitch, which gives us some information about where the team is going. Then Media Day comes. We just were at the Wolves' first practice, and we're learning. We're getting little breadcrumbs here throughout the preseason, and got a couple yesterday. And that's just what I want to do with you guys. Let's just bounce around things that have stood out from the media availabilities at Media Day, and then at practice today. So I'll start with you, Britt. What stood out most to you at Media Day that somebody said that you think will be meaningful this season?
Well, I do think that the non-Rudy defensive minutes is obviously a priority. They obviously need to find a way to get back some of that defensive identity at the same time that they had an elevated offense in the second half of the season for first time in a long time, actually. There was that year where they were first after the All-Star break for a little while, whatever. Mm-hmm. But this seems to be their offensive potential is enormous, I think. And they don't want the defense to slip. And it's so easy. Rudy does so much when he's on the court that slippage is kind of human nature. And that's what they have to guard against. So that's one thing I would say, really stuck out to me. Another thing that kind of was a theme that I didn't touch on with Finch at all, so it was kind of revelatory to me, was this whole idea of Mike Conley is not being quiet over the idea that he needs the ball. Mm-hmm. He is such a team first guy and such a go along, get along guy as he was for most of the time when Julius joined the team, and he got kind of edged out there for quite a while. And that was one of the disruptions that happened in that first month, 6 weeks of the season. Mike is not mincing words over the idea that if he doesn't get the ball, it's a problem. Mm-hmm. And I think that, again, I think that's a pretty significant thing that they did address first thing in practice today. Transition, Julius and Ant are not getting the ball on the outlet, in a planned kind of way. Obviously, if Ant is next to the guy who gets the rebound, but in general, if they're trying to prioritize transition a little bit more, and what that means is Mike is the person who's the middle guy in that.
Let's do the non-Rudy one first, Kyle, because we talked to Mike Nori at practice today a little bit, and the defense with Rudy on versus off came up. We talked to Rudy Gobert today at practice, and he talked about that some just in general, because I don't think we talked about this yesterday. Where are you just at with the importance of the defense of this team? When Jason and I talked a couple weeks back, right before the season, he really kind of hammered home of, look, this team needs to have a baseline of very, very good defense. When they were elite 2 seasons ago, it was first and foremost because of that defense. I feel like this non-Rudy piece that you're talking about, we talked about today, is like peeling into that. The defense is going to be good when Rudy's on the floor. It's going to be really good. It's going to be close to the equivalent of the Thunder. It always is. But what is going to define where this team ranks overall is in the those other 18 to 20 minutes a night that Rudy isn't playing, how good do they defend there? Where are you just kind of at with that, or did anything stick out to you from what Rudy said?
What stuck out to me, and we should talk about the Mike Conley transition thing, because I haven't told you something yet that I appreciated from your Finch articles. But I thought it was interesting when Mike Conley was talking about how, like, we had this dinner last night and we talked about what do we want to do this season? Are we just happy being entertainers, or what are we like? What is the goal of this team? And this kind of goes back to our mantra themes pod. And they said we want to win a championship. And not like the cliche, because everyone says that, right? Even the Nets are probably saying that at media day and like they have no chance. But this team really wants to do it. And one of the things Mike was like, is okay, then Ant, like, you need to be a better defender.
Sure.
And I think some of that is, and it is chicken and egg, right? Like, they also talked today about how do you get Rudy more engaged offensively. But there's going to be nights where it's not just 18 to 20 minutes. Maybe it's just not a night like you can't play Rudy that much because offensively he's limited. So he's off the court. And I think it's going to probably start with the perimeter guys, right? Like,
yep.
Multiple people yesterday at media day, including the head coach, mentioned like, hey, Jayden needs to get back to that all defensive level, right? He probably should have maybe been voted last year, but like, he needs to get back to his peak defense. And now they're challenging Ant in public saying it. And if you had those two guys on the perimeter kind of leading the way, I would imagine that trickles down to all the other guys that aren't Rudy.
It all ties to ball contain, or that's what Finch has said. That's what Finch has said. That's what Mike Nori said today. And I think that's very tied into the non-Rudy defense. When Rudy's not on the floor and you're Anthony Edwards on the ball, you're Jaden McDaniels on the ball, you're Jaylen Clark on the ball, that's the time where you don't have the guy back there to clean it up for you. The pressure needs to be there, and your ability to navigate the screen and keep it contained. It's the problems that happen to the non-Rudy defense are when you basically have free runners going to the basket, and, you know, Mike Conley gets stuck on a screen, and now here comes the point guard or the guy he's guarding barreling down the lane, and now Naz Reid it's all on him to take care of. Rudy can take care of that.
Right.
That's the piece that needs to get taken care of. And the reality of the situation is neither Naz nor Julius Randle, as backup fives for this team, are going to be able to just delete things around the rim anywhere near the level that Rudy can. So for me, when we talk about the non-Rudy defense, it's natural to go to Naz needs to have a better year at the five. You know, that's where you go. The more I think about it, it's about the perimeter guys. It's about the other four guys and the containment of the ball, so as to not let Naz and Julius sort of get exposed on the back end.
Also, I think that, and I get caught up in this too, I feel a lot better about this team than I did 48 hours ago, because we've gotten this preseason thing that happens where everything is pristine and everybody says, well, we're going to do this. We had a dinner, everybody, you know, all for one, you know,
put your hand in there.
Then there are guys who, you know, two names, Kyle Anderson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Those guys don't need a dinner. Those guys are on the ball. Kyle Anderson has fantastic instincts on when to bite on things. He doesn't foul, which is absolutely crucial when you're not at your best personnel on defense. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker is one of the best screen slippers I've ever seen. Gets after it on the ball. Both of them were selfless. Both of them never called attention to themselves when they were doing this. They just did their job. And by the way, especially Kyle, but a little bit more, a little bit less Kyle, too. They covered for their teammates. And these are the types of things that both, not incidentally, were not starters. They were 6th, 7th men. And they are the people that need to stabilize a second unit defense. The people that come in and do things like that. On this roster, currently right now, you have Jaylen Clark and a very optimistic scenario for Dante DiVincenzo to perhaps do that. You mentioned Jayden, I think absolutely. On the other hand, Jayden, I think, is, you know, interested in expanding his plate. It's been talked about for years. He demonstrated it last year only because a lot of people got hurt and he was able to do it. Human nature just basically says, turning the crank on something like that is so much easier talked about than actually executed, especially when you get into the course of the season. I've said this, and it's going to be something we all say throughout the season, if we remember it anyway, is Ant's growth will be always the biggest determinant of how much this team can rise. He is, the skeleton key that makes this team a legitimate championship contender, even if there is an OKC or a Denver or, Cleveland or whatever. And so that is the one thing I will say. If Ant's on ball,
yes, yeah, okay,
then you've got a situation, to your point, about getting people locked up on the perimeter. You get a Jaylen Clark, you get Jayden engaged that way, and you get Ant engaged that way. But we're also talking about the non-Rudy minutes. And I don't know how much Jayden will play non-Rudy. I don't know how much Ant will play non-Rudy. I mean, I think there'll be some. But you're going to need that 6th, 7th, 8th man to basically be the carpet sweeper. The Kyle Anderson, the Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Which is supposed to be Terrence Shannon Jr. this year.
Well, that's a huge ask.
I mean, sorry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he's going to be the 8th man.
Right, exactly.
It was interesting that I think you asked Micah Nori today about you are who you guard. What position is Terrence Shannon Jr. then?
Right.
And he said
he went 4
3s and 4s.
Yeah, he went 4, but then he said he had to backtrack it.
Yeah.
Because you can't, there's no room at him, for him at the 4, which is the way, again, a lot of this, Rudy, Julius, and Nas, Finch said 36 minutes, Micah said 30, as like, let's just say a lot of minutes are eaten up there among those 3 guys. And so you need really good perimeter defenders, because those 2 guys, as you very adroitly pointed out, if somebody gets free on the perimeter, Randall and Nas are both not that guy. I mean, they're very good at many things, but they're not rim protectors that seal off on that. Nas is great as a chase down block guy. Julius is great bodying up big men. Real surprise there. But in terms of seeing somebody come at you, the whole, 2-on-1, as Micah put it today, they're not good 2-on-1 guys. And Rudy's fantastic at that.
Yeah, the short answer for me, as you talk it out, is just the last 36 hours have all been about Anthony Edwards. Like yesterday, we felt like he looks happier. He looks like he realizes this is his team, and like he said all the right things. And, some of them you could, from 30,000 feet, think they're cliche, but you get to know him well enough. It is genuine. It is organic. He really probably believes that whole C. Hines quote about like, what was it about being boring?
Greatness
is boring. But yeah, because I was thinking when you said Jayden, like some of my best memories of Jayden playing defense last year was when he was off. They didn't have to be on ball, right? Like the best team defenses, it's a concept. Everyone is bought in, but you still think like, oh, the Thunder's defense really good. Lou Dort, right? Like you still have a shutdown corner. I do think it helps if Ant can be that guy, and they're going to challenge him. And like I said, Mike Conley, I think, is one of the most strategic guys when he talks, and he's very transparent. But for him to just come out on day one and be like, hey, we just challenged him, between the steak and the dessert last night of like, hey, do you want to play top 5 defense? Like, do you want to be a top 5 2-way guy? Because that's how we're going to win a championship. Is if I know we're putting a lot on your plate, but your plate is the size of this table. Like you need to continue to add to it. And defensively, that's probably going to be one of the big things.
Well,
that's just facts.
Yeah, right. Those things tie together though, too. You talk about what you picture in Jayden off ball,
and the rebounding was better and all that stuff. Yeah.
Defending the rim.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
So why can't that be part of the non-Rudy solution? Ant shifts to on the ball. Jayden shifts to becoming the guard and the guy in the corner, and the low man is a secondary rim protector. So now it's okay. The guy
Randall or Nas, who sits?
Well, he could still be.
I did think
still be the low man in those situations, and Nas could be guarding a guard. I mean, fair.
I did think about the 96-minute thing today, which is essentially 48 minutes times 2, right? And like he was doing he was talking about Nas and Julius. Micah was talking about Nas, Julius, and Rudy, and there's like, okay, well, one of my favorite little nerdy things is Jayden playing backup center. You know what I mean? So I think he didn't explicitly say it today. There's other ways to get Jayden to play backup center that aren't in that 96-minute formula.
And that's what at least what I'm trying to shove through
yes,
here is this idea that that there can be Julius at the 4 and Nas at the 5. Jayden can still be guarding the man in the corner, and then when the ball goes to the strong side and he's the weak side, he's the rotation over, and he's, I mean, for my money, probably one of the best forwards in the league at being a rim protector in that exact motion.
And he loves it.
And
you can tell that, it's not the grind of on ball on the perimeter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a vacation for him. I mean, you saw him when
like a
the
fun
glee
vacation
that he plays with when he gets to box out, get a rebound, get a guy coming at him from the baseline with his height.
It allows him to like attack rather than when you're at the point of attack guarding, but you're being attacked.
But simultaneously, if this makes sense, it also allows him to stay out of foul trouble. In my mind, like, you know what I mean? Like, I know he's protecting the rim, which obviously means like contesting shots, but I would imagine the numbers back up the fact that most of his foul trouble is when he's just on ball, on an island at the top of the key. Like, that's when he gets into trouble.
And also, I mean, that's what the head coach has to remember when he says ball pressure, ball pressure, ball pressure. Both Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Kyle Anderson were excellent at not fouling. And it's a skill. It is hard. Jaylen Clark is better at it than anybody else that's remaining on the team, I think. But there are also, I mean, it was funny to hear him bitch about, SGA in the playoffs. And
he didn't say SGA, but he meant it. Do Conley, your Conley piece.
Okay, so quick little rant, but like, I speak for every taxpayer in the state that really appreciated the 4-part series, the 75-minute interview you did with Chris Finch, because as we joked about, like, that kicks off the season, and it's very well done. And I'm not being self-deprecating, but you two are the smartest basketball people in my life, and you've taught me a lot. It's cool to talk about basketball in a smart way. It's also really cool to talk about basketball in a dumb way. And the best piece from those 4 articles was when Chris Finch said that the Timberwolves last season were top 5 in backwards passes. Because I think the point guard position is going to be my biggest question mark going into the preseason. But one of the basketball things I want, like, why, as Micah said today, which was really good, they were 27th in transition last year, like volume, but 3rd in efficiency. So basketball for dummies, and Chris Finch said this yesterday, Rudy Gobert gets a rebound, and Julius and Ant and Mike all run backwards to get the ball, like youth basketball. And as Mike is, and again, I think the Mike stuff is he's so, team. Yesterday, he just came out, muscles are bigger, and he's like, I need the damn ball. Like, I need it. Like, I want to be all-time quarterback.
Said it today, too.
And then he said it again today. It's clearly something he is trying to put out there. And we talk about this all the time, but like the hierarchy at an organization, any, I don't know, I was thinking of Banks, but like, it's important. It's really important for this team, too, to figure out the hierarchy. And today, I think it was Micah, but he's like, Julius and Ant and our athletes run. We're going to get rebounds. You take off. Mike will go backwards, and then he'll throw the head, the ball, and like get you going. But transition is something that it makes no sense that this team has so many athletes, and there were so few opportunities that they got into it last year. And that's like the lowest hanging fruit to me of how do we get better? We're a good defensive team. Our identity is defense. It should just translate to 12 more points every game in transition. And I think you're seeing those seeds being planted in the first 2 days here.
Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. I've been telling you about this. Kyle and I did the episode last week where we went through some interesting Wolves prize picks. We talked about all of the Anthony Edwards numbers. Maybe if you missed that episode, you don't know this, but Prize Picks numbers are set for season-long averages for Anthony Edwards, more or less than 27.5 points, more or less than 3.6 made threes per game, more or less than 5.6 rebounds per game, more or less than 4.5 assists per game. I think this is a really fun way to play Prize Picks. I did it a lot with NFL, and it's just season-long stats. So you pick more or less than on a season-long stat. I think those are the ones they have up for Wolves. They have Anthony Edwards, but you can do this with every player. I would really recommend, if you're already a Prize Picks player, go to that NBA season tab and look at more or less than, especially for the Ant ones. Always something going on over at Prize Picks. As a reminder, to put together a lineup at Prize Picks, all you need to do is put 2 or more picks in your lineup to win. If you don't have a Prize Picks account, promo code Dane, and you will be given $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app. Again, promo code Dane when you create your account. Today's show is also brought to you by Adriana Lonick at Coldwell Banker Realty. And if it's time to buy or sell your home, please do reach out to Adriana Lonick at Coldwell Banker Realty to help you with the process. If you're buying or selling, you need a realtor to get the ball rolling. And to start the ball rolling with Adriana, go to thedancingrealtor.com. That's her website, or you can call or text her at 715-304-9920 to book a free strategy session. Even if you are just beginning to think about buying or selling a home, set up a free consultation and you'll start moving in the right direction. The perk we're offering is you set up one of those free consultations and you'll be entered to win some free Wolves tickets this season from us. Again, thedancingrealtor.com for more information, or feel free to call or text her at 715-304-9920. Like I said, mention this podcast, get entered to win some free Wolves tickets. Adriana Lonick at Coldwell Banker Realty and thedancingrealtor.com. I think part of it too is Mike goes, okay, this would be good for me. Because last year I learned when I didn't have the ball in my hands how hard it was to be impactful as a point guard. I think he's probably talking about himself and thinking about himself and how to be the best version of himself when he's out there. But that's true for Rob Dillingham too, right?
Yeah.
Rob needs the ball in his hands too. So there's value in
Habits.
Yes, right? Of Mike being of Julius and Ant's first reaction when Rudy pulls down the rebound to not be going to get the ball a lot, because if Mike's on the floor, it should be Mike bringing it,
Right.
often. And same is true with Rob. I think what we're doing is we know the point guard position is a position of concern this season. They know that too. I think this is Mike's way of being like, yo, we get it. Like, I am part of the weakest position at this team right now. I'm not going to get better, but I can be used better. The point guard position can be used better than it was a season ago. And I think that there's meat on the bone there of just better habits surrounding the point guard position at all times. Rob should be all-time quarterback-ish as well, too. Even if once you get in the half court, it's like, okay, now we're going to DHO with Julius, or Ant is rising up and getting into a pick and roll with Rudy, whatever it might be. But I think the habits piece of creating that is what is behind Mike stating this to us twice and to his teammates.
I also think, just to shift the lens a little bit, it's great to say we got to get back to being the defense that we were 2 years ago. Well, that defense was phenomenal. And I don't think the current personnel on this roster can get back there.
Good point.
What I want to see, and I think it's a noble goal to say early in the season, because I think you want to establish that. But that's because the offensive momentum is already there. And this team is going to be a much better offense than they have been in the previous 2 seasons that they have gone. I mean, that fantastic defense carried 13th, 14th?
Yeah, 13th, I think.
Ranked offense all the way to the finals. I think there'll be a lot more balance. I think it'll be very similar to the end of last season in terms of both offense and defense hovering around top 8. And yes, I think this team is capable of being a top 5 defense, but I think if they are a top 1 or a top 2 defense, what that means is they're sacrificing offense, because you're getting Jaylen Clark, in my opinion, a lot of minutes there, or something. Or maybe Ant does come out and do fantastic things, but I think that necessarily robs energy that he might have on the offensive end. I just think that what I am thinking might be a best case scenario for this Timberwolves team this year is, we just talked about the low hanging fruit, which made me go in this direction. If Ant fires off the ball in transition and gets it from Mike Conley, the offensive efficiency grows enormously. If they just run the rudiments of transition, the offensive efficiency grows. If they hit Rudy more on the move, and he is able to get fed just enough, then I think the offense and the defensive efficiency grows. Terrence Shannon Jr. is much more polished on offense than he is on defense. He's going to be the biggest addition to this team versus Nah, who was as good as he was on offense, had more of a defensive presence. There's going to be a better offense and not quite as good a defense as the team 2 years ago was. And I think that isn't necessarily a bad thing.
You're right. That's a better way to frame it. To correct the ranking. 2 seasons ago when they were number 1 on defense by a mile, they were 16th in offense. Okay. Last season, they were 6th on defense and 8th on offense. They had a little spike at the end of the season. I think that is even the possibility that that'll wind up being like 4 and 6, and the offense is 4 and the defense is 6, or something like that. Now, it's a really good team. That is a very good team. Now, OKC, I think, is probably 1 and 1. So, you always have that in the, back of your mind. But 1 and 2.
Julius Randle is an offensive force. He was very, very impressive in terms of his growth on defense last year, but nobody is going to say, let's go get Julius Randle because we want to beef up our defense. Mm-hmm. Naz Reid, as good as he is and as confident as he was the other day, I was asking him, are you a 3 or a 5? He said, I'm both. I'm versatile. Well, guess what? The NBA, that's incredibly hard on defense to be a 3 and a 5. And I think that was one of the reasons he didn't play very good defense last year, is because he was overmatched. He was learning to be a wing. And I think he still has a wings mindset. And that's where he's most dangerous on offense, not on defense. He needs Rudy Gobert beside him to be a really good defender. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you look at your personnel leans offense. And that's not a bad thing because there's a lot of fucking offense there. So, I get where Finch is coming from, because you want to keep Rudy and engage Rudy Gobert. The only way that happens is if this team plays really good defense. But if you want to win it all, I think you have to lean into what this roster is. And I think that is top 6 both ways, rather than 1 or 2 on offense and 10 or 11 on, 1 or 2 on defense, 10 or 11 on offense.
Where do you think the offense can improve?
Well, again, I go back to how my level of concern on the point guard position was a 9 out of 10 2 weeks ago. It's probably like an 8 now, because you said something a little bit ago about Mike, like, not getting better. I think Mike was pretty open today in post practice. No, I know what you were saying too, but like, I think he was pretty adamant. Like, hey, I actually was asked last year, and like everyone knows it, but I know it too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think we've all just kind of assumed. We did the car analogy last night about like when he's out there, drive the car hard. I think people might think the cars just can't get to 65 anymore. And I think what he said today is that was an outlier, and we'll see if it's true. I mean, he's an older player, like you said, 5th or 6th oldest player in the league right now. He's got a lot of miles on that car, but there is a chance, right? Like, hear me out. Like, he was just injured all last year, and he couldn't work on stuff in the summer of 24, and it trailed throughout the season. And then the trade messed him up too, because Julius needs the ball a lot more than Cat needed it. And there's just a chance that he's just a better player this year. Mm-hmm. And I know people don't want to hear it because the 2 timeline thing with those two and him and Rob, but I just think if he gets his way, he's not soft spoken. You do a good way of explaining it, Britt, but he also, for him to fire out these first 2 days and be like, hey, and he probably sees his timeline or his end of career coming much quicker than most. And I just think if he can get what he wants, I think that will be big, because he doesn't want to shoot the ball. He said it multiple times. Like, I'm not just trying to get this thing up 20 times. Just trust me, and I will put you in better positions. And again, I do think it all comes back to whether it be the point guard traditional position or just who is initiating offense. And again, for me, it's transition, because not to do a 27-28 season preview yet, but I think the peak of all of this stuff down the road is a team that is top 5, top 6 in transition. When Ant is 26 years old and Nas and Jaden are 27, 28. And I think about the Behringer draft highlight where he's sprinting down the court. Like, that is what this team is going to be like at their peak down the road.
It's if you look at I know, just because I have this up, the top offenses last season is Cleveland, Oklahoma City, Boston, and Denver. Denver got there because of Jokic, just because of Jokic. Yeah. Everything that he does. Boston did that by shooting half their shots from 3,
exactly,
and making them.
Great spread. win or lose on threes, and they won.
And that's how, I mean, these are the 4 teams who had an offensive rating over 120, right? Which is a 40% three is a 120 offensive rating, right? Oklahoma City and Cleveland are 1 and 2 due to pace and movement. Those are all 4 of those teams have efficiency game breakers. Those are their efficiency game breakers. What's the Wolves?
And I think very important, Cleveland and OKC were also incredibly disruptive on defense and got transition points.
Exactly. And that's where I'm going. Is that's the Wolves' path to having a 120 offensive rating this season, which is high. I don't think they will, but that's what it looks like. Because playing the vast majority of your possessions in the half court, even if you have Anthony Edwards shooting 10 threes and making them at a 40% clip, even if you have Julius Randle effectively playing bully ball by the basket and finding teammates, it's just money is hard to make in the half court. You can't get to 120. If you're in the half court, a good possession is a point. In transition, it's way more than that.
Absolutely.
And so it's just,
this team was 29th in transition opportunities as a percentage of their offense last year. And I think they were middle of the pack, maybe a little above middle of the pack in terms of efficiency.
Yeah, Micah went with the 27th and 3rd thing, but that
one's not better for me.
What you're talking about there. What if they probably have better metrics of actually tracking it and stuff like that? I mean, there's just a ton of meat on the bone here, again, to say that of doing something that leads to more effective and efficient offense. They can do they can do that. That's how you bump this up from 8th to 7th to 6th to 5th to 4th, to move up into that range. Just hooping is not going to do it.
And actually, what is another thing that we heard, you asked a really good question about why did it work 2 years ago? Somebody did, I think it was you. And Micah flat out said, high wall.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that this year. Rudy came in and said, I mean, he didn't even think about high wall when they were talking. All right. So Randall and Rudy, obviously, high wall is not something it's in their thing. Nas has done high wall effectively. And you have Jaden and Nas as 4-5, and you have an energetic Ant, and you have guys like Shannon and Clark and Dante. You can't play high wall with that group. I mean, I know it gets really complicated, and it also gets really controversial because you've got guys who live and die with switching and drop back. But if you want to improve your non-Rudy defense, I think maybe you explain it to Finch as you just got through saying 3 years ago, we need a plethora of defensive assignments for the playoffs. Well, you better get high wall in your arsenal.
Yeah. And I mean, last season they had traditional drop with Rudy. And then what they would do is they would get out kind of like a high wall, but into a switch. The high wall with Cat, and I think we can all kind of picture that as sprints up and he kind of does this like wave up at the ball handler and then retreats
thing
back.
About it is that Cat was uniquely suited to play high wall. I mean, it seems so weird to say that if you look at him and watch him play, but the way to make him a cog in the defense, and maybe now that I think about it, maybe you could make Randall do that too. I don't know. I think it's about with Carl. I mean, how many hours did we spend doing this with Carl? But size 26 feet.
Exactly. Well, but
I mean, that is part of the reason.
But he got out and did the high wall.
Well.
Exactly. Okay, backpedal. But that's what I'm saying. The reason it worked so well with Carl, or why it was a good strategy with Carl, was because he was bad at drop.
Yeah, he's a lateral guy. He's not a back guy.
Exactly. So that was a good thing. And then I don't know if you have that same delta of the two different coverages, if it's Randall or Nas. And it sounds like they don't think it would be because I think they're just going to switch.
I know. And maybe that's true. But if the non-Rudy defense continues to be bad, there's nothing to be, I mean, and
it's kind of cut them loose to
it's fashionable to say you need to do it in the summertime, you need to do it in preseason, so on and so forth. There are examples of teams. Dallas almost won a ring throwing 2 guys in February that totally changed their defense.
True. Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah. I feel like we should talk about Jaylen Clark. I feel like you can't contain yourself.
Well, I mean,
was he your favorite person to speak yesterday at media day? Because like you lose Nikhil, and I think you and I have connected on this. Like, I love talking to Nikhil just because I thought he was well spoken and well thought out, and no one really wants to do media, but he would give you real minutes and time. And now that he is gone, it's like, who's going to fill not the on-court void, but the off-court void? And I feel like yesterday Jaylen Clark stepped into that role.
And, you know, his hot tub discussion 2 years ago was a similar deal, man. I mean, very, very different, but also like the thing that got tongues wagging. What I like about Jaylen Clark is he's an original thinker, which is usually my highest compliment for anybody. Whatever comes out of his mouth could be anything. It could be Fruit Loops, or it could be his uncle was a math wizard, and he basically gives you a little synopsis of what that math wizardry was all about. I mean, you have no idea what he's going to say. But, I mean, he basically talked about Minnesota's cold, no one wants to come here. And he's right. In February, you know what NBA guys are like. I don't want to do this. They're coming in, I'm cold, and so on and so forth. If there's also a team that steps on their neck right away, that made sense to me. That was actually not nonsensical. I mean, I know the news people, you know, had fun with it. It's like almost like this novelty idea. It's as, you know, plausible as a lot of other things I hear people say. And then, you know, the talking about how to defend people, what's on the clock, when do you go at somebody, how do you defend, you know, with Ant, you know, you basically take one thing away, you know, he's going to get another. It was like a little 45-second clinic on how to play a really great player on defense, which, by the way, was a pretty good advertisement for how to be a wing stopper, how to be a guy who comes off the bench and takes the other team's best man. And what does this team need on the non-Rudy side? So again, I just think that if you're looking at 8, 9, 10, you know, the young depth, as Finch said in our interview, Jaylen Clark, provided that he didn't just get incredibly lucky from deep last year, which there's still a part of me that says the variance on that may not shoot 40% from 3 this year. But if he can just move the ball along, make the right play on offense, I have no doubt that he can be a real problem solver for this team at the other end. And, you know, he fits the timeline, that second timeline. Nas, Ant, and Jaden all love him. And he's a talker. He's a sociable guy, and he's good for the locker room, and he's good for the team on the court. I don't know if he'll get the chance because Rob Dillingham, they invested a lot in him, and Terrence Shannon Jr. has a lot of upside in a lot of different ways, and there's only so many people you can play. There's only so many minutes. But I think, like last year, if they call on him, he'll be ready, and it's going to be fun to watch.
I mean, that's the thing, is we got to kind of like play it out, right? Because Nas
is
going to play, Dante's going to play.
Exactly.
And if we're putting TJ in there, that's 8 now. And I'm not against your point here.
No.
But if Jaylen Clark has to play, that's it. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't matter if Finch says, you know, it might be 10. There's like a couple minutes left for 10 there. That's just the reality.
That's when you're intentional about bearing gate.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a whole nother step. Cal, do you think there's a world where it's actually Jaylen Clark who plays every single night, and the other guys are the ones that vary? I was, as Britt was talking, I was thinking about like looking around the league, and sometimes that's the type of player who plays every night, is just because the
Indiana,
I'm thinking like Keon Ellis in Sacramento. It's just this
the
like
Jose Alvarado thing too.
yeah,
Right?
it's just like a known, a very known commodity. I think some coach, particularly if it's defensively, and you know that they can be your bench wing stopper when your main wing stopper's out. Like, I do think we generally put Jaylen Clark 10th because he's less talented than Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham. But there might be a world where he's the most bankable of the three night to night. I know TJ probably deserves bankability, and Finch and Micah and everybody compliments him for he does exactly what he's asked to do. I just think there's something to the Jaylen Clark thing where it's so simple. Like his duties are so scripted, and I think he can do those duties of guarding the ball and hitting close to 40% of his open corner threes.
Right.
That in and of itself, if I'm the coach, I might just be like, nope, that's 15 minutes every night. And if that's the case, it does get hard to mix in other pieces.
If you're asking me, is there a world where Jaylen Clark is now 8th in the pecking order? The obvious answer is yes. And you have a small little data point. We talked about this last night in that Phoenix game when Josh Minot got back cut last season. And the first person that Finch went to was Jaylen Clark, because he knew, again, bankable. We talked about XYZ. He knew he would get X from Jaylen. He'll play good defense. Yeah. I do think like the 8 starters mantra has now gone to 7 starters. So now we're trying to figure out, and as much as we both love Chris Finch, I think it is impossible and not going to happen that they'll play 10. And then you look at that trio of the young guys, and Baron Jay's kind of in his zone, just holding cell until he becomes awesome. Is it like Terrence probably has the highest floor, in my opinion? I think the highest floor. But when they asked about Rob yesterday at Media Day, the first thing Chris Finch said was the non-negotiables are his effort on defense. And then today, Micah talking about TJ was like, he really like, what's one thing TJ can do to really get minutes? He's like, he needs to improve his defense. Well, Jaylen Clark is nails on defense for a team that's defensive minded and is still going to lean into that identity. So 100%. Will he shoot 40% from 3? I don't know. But as we kind of noted yesterday, I don't think his confidence is ever going to waver. I think if he goes 1 for 12 during a stretch of the week, like he's just going to keep letting him rip. And that'll be big, because that's the one thing of those types of guys do play, but all the guys you listed are somewhat of an offensive threat. The Josh Kogies of the world just don't play anymore.
Yeah. Which Jaylen Clark probably,
if he can't shoot,
can't shoot, he's Josh Okogie.
Yeah.
And then, yes, you do not get 15 minutes a night.
What I would say is, and he made a very good case for plausibility, and I agree with it. And I'm obviously the guy.
this is the gas up Jaylen Clark.
I just gushed about Jaylen Clark. Probability, TJ is
agreed
the 8th man, and will be treated in a very Nah-like fashion. I think he'll get regular minutes. I think that it's Rob and Jaylen as much as I can make a case for Jaylen. I think that they are enamored with the two-way potential
of Shannon.
I think that they think Shannon can get 17 a night.
And again, it is interesting.
Wait, points or minutes?
Points.
Wow.
It is interesting because, again, I think TJ right now has the highest floor and might have the highest ceiling. Jaylen Clark,
I'm in this camp too, guys.
Right.
No,
we're just kind of devil's advocate.
I'm throwing it out there. Like, I think TJ should be 8th. I think he has maybe the highest floor and the highest ceiling of those 3 guys. I think there might be more variance to his performance and less on-ball defensive chops.
Exactly. And again, it gets back to, what do you want? If you want a top 2 or 3 defense, then it's almost a no-brainer that you put Jaylen Clark in the top 8.
And again, to go back to those trios, like Terrence, we just did all that highest ceiling, highest floor, maybe. Jaylen, most bankable skill on Saturday, game 1 of the preseason. And then Rob, who is the youngest of the 3, but also has probably the most equity built in him or the organization. And again, like, hashtag this league. But at some point that leaks into things. And I think this organization so far does a good job of playing the players who should play. But that is a item under the Rob Dillingham, outline is like, he cost a lot to acquire. And at some point, if Terrence gets the 8 and you're like, who's getting the 9 tonight? Do you go to the guy that's bankable, or do you go to the guy that might need to play.
Today's show is brought to you by Factor. And when basketball season comes around, we start doing Factor meals at my household. For me, going to games again during the fall, it really is easy to take what appears to be the easy option, right? Just order more takeout, order more groceries. But I've learned that Factor is actually faster to make than waiting for a delivery to come. It's cheaper than getting food delivered, and it's definitely healthier. That's why I love Factor. The chef prepped, dietitian approved meals make it easy to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious no matter how hectic the season gets. I genuinely use Factor, and I really think you should too. Eat smart at factormeals.com/DaneMoore50 off and use code DaneMoore50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That link is in the show notes below. That's code DaneMoore50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Today's show is also brought to you by Skims. Skims you know of from probably the women's clothing space, but they are here in the men's underwear space as well. You've heard me talking about them. I really think they're comfortable. Most comfortable pair of underwear I have ever owned. I have the stretch 5-inch boxer briefs, and they are perfect for going to the gym. Comfortable in that capacity. Also comfortable for just being at home, sitting on the couch, watching a game or something like that. That's my favorite thing about them. And I think it's what's unique is they work for working out or hanging out at home. Like I said, stretch 5-inch boxer briefs are my personal favorite, but they have all different kinds, cotton briefs amongst other styles. I think you should try and find a pair that works for you. Be more comfortable. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, a drop-down menu will show up that you can select the Dane Moore NBA podcast that lets them know that you heard about them through us. Again, Skims Men's at skims.com and Skims stores.
I think Rob Dillingham is the low-key drama for this season.
Yeah.
Certainly the first
Thanks
half
for
of
saying.
this season.
Let's do that. Let's close it out with that. Elaborate.
Well, the easy answer is his ceiling is very high. He's got a great NBA first step. He did, as far as defensive willingness, exert himself as a good rookie in that respect last year. On the negative side, you can't teach 165 pounds. It's bad defense.
Yeah.
As much as he's gritty about it, he needs help at the defensive end. He is not, if I heard Finch say this once, not only in our interview, but yesterday at Media Day, we want people who know who they are and can deliver on that. And what they are is also what we need. Rob has a long way to go on that. He does not know who he is, and he does not fully appreciate what they need. If he does, he had a terrible way of verbalizing it the other day.
And he's young.
He's very young. Right.
And that,
and impatient.
but seemingly so.
Right.
That's why I think he's the most interesting character in training camp.
And I think he's the one that definitely will. There's a lot of Rob Dillingham stands out there in the fan base. I think there is a lot of interest in Rob Dillingham around the league. I think he will be, put it this way, if he was taken 28th in the draft and it was with the regular pick rather than that, exotic 2031, and if he didn't have a couple of games where he's like plus 35 when the rest of the team was minus 6, then I think that he would not be getting nearly this much attention. But the reality is, all of the things I just said, if it didn't happen, they do happen. And so it's going to be low-key drama. And when Chris Finch trusts somebody, he does not trust Rob Dillingham.
Right. And that's why I'm saying he's the interesting character, because in theory, he could earn that or earning some of that.
It would be incredibly good news if somebody either got through to him or he realized what he needs to do. And then all you have to worry about is the defense.
I do wonder about the functionally who he's playing with. And I want to see Rob Dillingham play. I think Rob Dillingham should play. I think we do so much of this about Rob and why he doesn't make sense. And a lot of his skill set does make sense.
Yes.
Pace, being able to break the paint and play make or hit floaters from that area. There's so few players on this team who do the things that Rob Dillingham can do. We know he can actually do those now, even without growth.
And Finch articulates that.
Yes.
I mean, he from A to Z of what you just said. But again, it gets back to, will he do those things in the appropriate situation? And then the easy comeback of that is maybe if he gets experience, and then the comeback is, well, you're going to give him that experience as everybody sits around a table and says, we're going to win a ring. I mean,
it needs to be like a specific group. Where I was going with that is these are the reasons why you need to play Rob. And I think it makes sense to play Rob, but I think you got to play him with Rudy. And it's that second unit, how do you get to some of that too? Because generally speaking, is it going to be the Nas and Randall minutes when Rob's out there? That would be the natural flow of coming into the game, end of the first quarter, end of the third quarter. At that time, that's when Nas and Julius are the front court. I don't want Rob Dillingham out there when Nas and Julius are
and I should tweet this out because I thought it was a really good answer. But that's why I asked Mike today about how do you balance, you want to play, you can still play, you're competitive as hell. Your best minutes are probably with Rudy on the court, right? Running, a little pick and roll with him, but also being the mentor and the big brother for Rob. And I mean, I was thinking back to when we think about Rob and when Rob talked yesterday, when we were in Vegas, talking to people from the front office, and they're like, the organization and those cubicles think that he can be Rob Dillingham can be a top 8 to 12 point guard in the league down the road. That's high praise for a guy who's not getting minutes right now. You know what I mean? And the only way to get to that, back to Britt's point, is to get minutes. But how do you? It has 2019 draft vibes for me when it was Culver in the first round, Jalen Noel in the second round, then Nas Reed undrafted. I know Jaylen Clark wasn't in the TJ Shannon, Rob Dillingham thing, but if Terrence Shannon Jr. was drafted 8th and they got the 31st or 2031 pick to get him, and then Rob was 28th, this would not be a drama. Right. And if this is the drama, by the way, and drama is the right word, this is pretty easy drama. It's not like what the Clippers are going through. Yeah. So there's always going to be some sort of drama, but I do think it's worth ripping the Band-Aid off and just being this is year 2 for a lottery pick, and we all are in consensus that it's not a guarantee he's going to play every night. And that is drama.
Yeah, it's funky. I mean, it's just the by nature weird that he came in to a team that just went to the Western Conference Finals. So it was the 8th overall pick. That in and of itself is extraordinarily rare to play out in that sort of way. Plus, what I always say is you got to remember that he was drafted before they made the Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo trade.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
I don't either.
I was going to say, devil's advocate, I know you're getting to this. I don't think if they make that, if they don't make that trade and it's Carl, I still don't think Rob gets a ton of minutes last year. Is that where you're going with this? Because I think they would have ran Nikhil till his legs fell off. Because I don't think Rob was, to all the stuff Rich just said, ready to play.
You don't think it would have been more, though?
Oh, you would have been more, but I don't think you would have had a 20-minute a game thing. I don't think Dante DiVincenzo is the only reason Rob didn't play.
Yeah, but it is another guy in your rotation who's playing 20, how many minutes a game that, DiVincenzo play? He was drafted in a different image of the team. That's a fact. They had Karl Anthony Towns on the team. They had not made this move yet. It's not like they were about to make that move. They made they draft Rob late June. They trade Karl late September.
Right.
I mean, it's three
after
months
summer
apart.
league.
Well after
after Rob Dillingham played a summer league.
Yeah,
and
maybe
was
that was
shown to be, if he's a lottery pick, he is a future asset. The good news here,
he could still be a future asset, a really good one, and all the
hear me out. Good news here, and it's rare to be able to say this, but I'm getting used to it. This is a really smart organization, and they don't necessarily need to punt the guy just because they're not giving him minutes in the first couple of years. They're not going to panic and say, we made a mistake. They're going to believe in what they think. Tim Conley was ready to have the guy be seventh man right after he drafted him. I know he was delirious, but
might have been
at
the plan,
same time,
might have been the plan.
you know, if you look at Jaylen Clark, we talk about now, was drafted knowing they wasn't even going to play his rookie year. Terrence Shannon Jr., because of that bogus scandal he got tied up in where the lady wrongly accused him of something, fell, and also because of his age. Another great pick landed in their lap. They're smart. They probably knew that Dillingham was going to come off the board before, they had to get that far down. But once they realized that he wasn't going to be ready, they made a deal. They have other things going on right now. They've got a second timeline. This guy can fit into the second timeline. It isn't like it's an irretrievable error. It's not Jared Culver. It's not going to be somebody
100%.
you're going to, we're going to get rid of that dude as quickly as possible. Yeah. It's not Bryn Forbes or, Shake Milton in terms of free agency. I think that they'll stay with Rob Dillingham. I don't think he's going to get the burn that everybody who is a stan of his would like to see. And I'm sure even he's not going to get the minutes that the organization ideally would like to see in him, simply because they've got bigger fish to fry. They've got to, use this Rudy, Conley, Julius timeline to go get some hardware. But that doesn't mean that it's a wasted pick. It doesn't mean that Rob Dillingham is a bust. What it means is it's not going to be his time.
And the biggest question mark for this franchise this season on October 1st, tomorrow, is the point guard position. That was the same question mark 3-4 months ago during the draft, and they drafted 14 feet of foreign guys. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like that kind of to go to Britt's timeline of the 24 draft and then the Dante thing, like they got pummeled by OKC without having another guard next to Ant. They went into the draft. So that like shows the support or the belief still in Rob Dillingham is that he's not Jared Culver. I think some point his number will be called, but I also think, and you know this better than anyone, like to get Finch's trust, it's the reason Jaylen Clark was the first of the young pups to play last year. It's because he knows he can do that one thing that builds on this team's identity.
Also, let's say this is Mike Conley's last season, which he did not commit to it being at media day when we asked him about it, or today at practice. But let's say it is. What optionality does this team have at point guard next season outside of Rob Dillingham? None. It is Rob, because they don't have picks that they could trade. I mean, you could get complicated and you could try and trade a Naz Reid or a DiVincenzo or a Julius Randle or something like that for a point guard. But I think the plan seems is keep moving in that direction where it is a matter of time, as Mike said today, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, it's Rob's show. That's what he said to us.
Yep.
That can be true, while also it's a little awkward right now, having no idea how, but just not being able to commit to an amount of minutes to him. And then to the good organization point, it's about managing that and managing your 20-year-old 8th overall pick, who year two, if he's playing limited minutes, is going to naturally be frustrated. I think you can manage that in the now while also holding out a lot of belief in Rob Dillingham 12 months from now.
And let's bring it back to square one.
Cool.
Which was what you said, what I've said, you believe it too. This team, the higher Ant goes, the more this team guaranteed goes. It is Ant's show. The more he gets to top 3 MVP voting, the better this team goes. If Ant is able to do that this year, next year, the idea of Ant being in the same backcourt as Rob Dillingham, taking the tougher defensive assignment, letting Rob play off the ball some, letting Rob play on the ball some with no gravity on Rob, playing with Ant in the same backcourt as you get better. Suddenly Rob Dillingham is a hell of a lot better player because Anthony Edwards is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Nikola Jokic, somebody who obviously is the priority. And if that priority gets so tilted in that direction, which everybody kind of thinks may happen someday, then Rob Dillingham's future here looks a lot better.
You have any final thoughts on that?
No, I just this really does get you excited about the season. I
Watch a
didn't,
game.
Right, yeah. Well, we're not going to watch a game because
Yeah.
it's not going to be on
Listen
TV on
to Alan
Saturday.
on the radio.
I'm gonna sit in my car. No, I mean, I've been saying this to Dane. Like, this is I think the 9th year doing it for us. And I was not excited last season. Like, I just wasn't. And I think the year before I was like, they're gonna run it back, whatever. I think I'm more excited for this season than I have been in a lot. I'm just kind of curious. You've seen it all covering this team. Just kind of where are you at with as we ramp up towards the first preseason?
I think
game?
I'm unnaturally giddy at the moment.
Okay.
I think that I'll come back to the mean. But what I will say is,
Is it like Jordan McLaughlin fast break giddy?
well, I mean, that would be, in other words, temporary. That's what I'm saying. Here today, gone tomorrow. Still right, though. But I guess what I would say is, well, I said it to you on a pod a little while ago. I did not regard the Wolves in the same class as, OKC, obviously, but I would put them, in a dogfight with Houston and with Denver. Houston, even without Van Vliet, in my opinion, and Denver and some of these other teams. I do think the West is extremely tough, and I think that a legitimate goal for this team is home court advantage in the playoffs. I thought that was really well stated by Tim Conley in opening remarks yesterday. You don't want to say we're going to finish first because it's going to be a process and it's going to need some help. But that was the best. I would have called that an optimistic scenario 3 days ago. And this is what media day and the first couple of days of practice should do for you. You should become more excited about your team. And actually, one of the reasons that didn't happen last year was because they had the trade and everybody had to readjust. I actually remained pretty optimistic because I really thought that DiVincenzo, was a great guy to get. And I still think that he could be somebody who is being unfairly discounted this year just because he had some aspects. There is a lot of depth on this team. The longer I'm around Finch and Conley, the more I'm impressed. I just think that Conley is working 2 timelines. That is so hard to do. Right. And he's doing it well. And Finch is molding teams on the fly, which again is so hard to do. And it's just, yes, I've been around forever or whatever. And what do I feel like? I feel like I'm in the hands of covering a team that knows what it's doing. Whether or not it gets to be where they want to be, I don't know. But I understand the process most every step of the way. And it makes sense to me. And now that I hear that the players themselves, the Mike Conleys and the Rudy Goberts and people just saying Nas Reed the other day. I mean, there's a lot of more accountability and does have a different vibe to him, I think. I'm very optimistic. I think 6 weeks from now, when the team is maybe 6-2, I'll be going, okay, pretty good. Or maybe if they're 5-3 or 4-4. But the point is it's a long season. And what you have to remember is, we're at the step, and it's not a trail of tears. It's probably a very nice walk, but we're right at the beginning of it. We have no idea.
And I think that's a cool way to close, because a couple hours ago, when you're coming at it from someone who covers the team, but talking about how finally, like, you can kind of trust the overall vision of this, and now let's see if it pays dividends. To Finch's point, that's kind of what Alan Horton said earlier today, talking about finally. He's been here for 19 years, and like, this is the first time you can like, okay, I think they have all the right pieces in place, the dominoes. And now do they actually, is the championship dinner talk just another thing you do the night of media day, or is it something that this organization after 37 years can finally break through?
Yeah, it's you got two good hole cards, right?
Yeah.
You got to go play the hand still,
right.
And that's what the
and you got a good poker player.
Yeah, it's a couple, I think. This was awesome, guys. It's fun to even just listen to my own thoughts evolve over seriously, Britt, you and I talk about this all the time of like talking to each other,
right?
Not just you and I, but John and Jace and Chris and everybody in the media room. It's it stirs the echoes of thoughts in this, and we'll probably vary over the course of.
I hope so.
We still got 18 days, or no, 22 days until the first actual game, and we'll learn more about this team over time and continue tracking these breadcrumbs. But I feel good about where we're at, what we've covered from media day and today, and we'll see where this thing keeps going. Next up on the pod, we're gonna have Chris Hine come in after practice tomorrow, and maybe I'll try and get some clips or something like that. We'll go through some of the most interesting things that have been said over these first 2 days of practice, and and keep moving from there. They got a game on Saturday, and we'll I don't know how I'm going to watch it, but we'll find a way to talk about that on Monday with Jace too. Appreciate you guys both being here. Britt at MimPost, follow him on Twitter at Britt Robson. I follow Kyle at Kyle Tigey. Like I said, with Chris tomorrow. So until then, he's Britt, he's Kyle, I'm me. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you dancing